and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs. And to be honest with you, I'm trying to find the energy to try and talk about that game, but my God, I just don't know where I'm going to find it from. I'm wearing black to mourn the death of the club because that's how I'm feeling at the moment. But with me tonight to try and go and dissect that game against Manchester United, I have two lovely guests. First with me, I have Abbi Summers. Abbi, how are you feeling after yesterday's result?
I mean, like I just said to you before we started, I try not to get so wound up anymore because I just don't even think it's worth it. We all know what's going to happen before we even kick off. So how do I feel? I feel how I feel every week at the minute. I feel just completely despondent about it, annoyed. But it's the same cycle, and it's a never-ending cycle. So I'm just at a loss with how we've managed to regress so much. And I know how it's happened. I think we all know how it's happened, but you know, it's just how we can move forward from here. I just can't see a way forward at the minute for us.
I think that's the real struggle with everyone trying to pick themselves up. The only way I've looked forward to it is the fact that gyms and the pubs are open. So that's the main thing to look at it. And obviously, I'm also joined by Patrick. Patrick, how are you today on this fine Monday?
Oh, I'm okay. I mean, personally, I'm good. But as a Spurs fan, I'm down in the dumps. It just feels like it's a never-ending cycle. It's like a nightmare, isn't it? It's like a bad dream and you can't get out of it. And yeah, I'm angry, I'm upset, and I just feel a disconnect to the club. I mean, we're going to get into it. We're going to sit down and chop it up, but I just feel disconnected from the club at the moment, and I don't feel like there's anything to look forward to. So yeah, I'm not good in that regard.
I know, such a vibe, isn't it? Such a vibe.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It's all good. It's all good. I mean, like Cody says, he's waiting for me to say they're a bunch of eggs, and he's done it for me. So there we go. But anyway, back to that game. So I don't know about you guys, but as soon as the team sheet came out, I had an absolute nightmare. Obviously, I'm hoping we're all feeling the same on the sense of Eric Dier. So Abbi, I come to you. What on earth is going through Jose's mind in starting, in code words, that egg at centre-back? What are your words for him?
I mean, well, you'd have to also ask the same questions Gareth Southgate. How on earth is Eric Dier getting, an England call-up? It is beyond me. And yeah, look, start of the season, couldn't really knock him. We were playing well, or we were grinding out results, getting them somehow, despite not playing the greatest football I've ever seen. But I don't know how he's in that side. Look, you see Toby on the bench, and for Toby's age, whatever, I guess that plays a part into it. But you still can't deny that he's probably the best centre-back we have at the club when you compare him to the others. So, starting him alongside Rodon, surely that would be great. I have no issue with Joe Rodon, actually. I think he's actually quite promising, but I think that he needs someone next to him who's got experience, who's, can guide him. And I think that pairing him with the Davinson Sanchez or an Eric Dier is not the solution. So you can only think that Toby has said something, or how Jose is. You see him rotate, you see him start someone like, Matt Doherty week after week over Aurier. And for what it's worth on Aurier, I feel he's actually improved a fair bit in the last 18 months to 2 years. So he'd always be my first choice over Matt Doherty regardless. But you see Jose make these decisions, and you have to question, has he said something in training? Has he done something? Because there's no logical reason why, especially with our defensive issues, that anyone with half a brain cell would think that Eric Dier is a better option over Toby. It just doesn't register. So, of course, the second you see a Dier-Sanchez partnership, or a Dier or a Sanchez in anything, you immediately have that feeling where you're like, well, this is just not probably going to end well at all. But you have a little bit more reassurance in how Toby can play, and coaching whoever's next to him into maybe having a bit more stability and trust back there. But as soon as you see Eric Dier on the team sheet, for me, it's always going to be a bad day.
That's the thing, it just set me off right from the start. I literally looked at the team sheet and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And that's the thing with Toby, no matter who he's at the back with, I feel a bit more confident. So, Patrick, that being said, what would be your ideal? How would you have set up against Man United with that back four? Would Dier have been straight out the door?
Yeah, Dier wouldn't have started for me. He would have been on the bench, if that. It has to be Toby. Toby is our best centre-back. Yes, he's not as quick and as dynamic as he used to be, but he's still our best centre-back. So for me, it's always Toby plus one. And right now, it'd be Toby and Rodon. So with Toby, I mean, we're only playing once a week now, so there's no more excuses of, if Toby plays in the week, he can't play on the weekend and all of that. Toby needs to start, and with Roden next to him, like Abby said, Roden looks really promising. He looks like a very good player. I mean, even yesterday, he bailed out Dier quite a few times and covered him when Dier lost his man. And I mean, you look at the Man United team, you know they're going to have, I mean, Cavani is probably one of the best basically inside the box movement players in the Premier League. And the amount of times that Dier lost him yesterday, if it wasn't for Roden making a last-ditch tackle or getting across, we could have been battered. And I know 3-1 is a bad loss anyway, but could have been a lot worse. We were lucky a goal got chalked up anyway, so it could have been 4-1. And yeah, I just don't understand. I really don't understand it. Unless something's happened behind the scenes that we're not aware of, it makes no sense why Toby isn't starting week in and week out.
I 100% agree with you both, actually. I mean, it's just interesting what Cody said. I mean, you going back to saying that something's obviously maybe happening behind the scenes. I mean, we've heard this thing that Jose's trying to search for this mole. Now, for me, as much as I've tried to back Jose, because like I said, he's our manager, like, it's just petty childness. I think that's the kind of thing that we're trying to allude to. Why not play your best centre-back? Because he's bailed us out so many times. You know, Eric Dier's definitely got a mistake in him. And like we've all said, Rodon and Toby is a better fit than Rodon and Dier. So, like I said, I'm just completely confused by it all. But going off, obviously, from that starting 11, the game kicked off, and I don't know how you guys felt, but I kind of felt we actually tried to attack on the front foot a bit more this game. I felt like a bit more confident in the way we set up. And obviously, we saw Sonny back in the team. Now, obviously, there was a bit of controversy, but how nice was it, Abby, to see Sonny back in that team with Harry Kane?
It was great because, you know, when you look at our squad and you look at the, you know, the positive things about our side, you know, Sonny's one of them, alongside Harry Kane. And I think in this, you know, the second half of the season where it's been awful, it's been really difficult to find positive things. And it was great to see him back. It was great to sort of see him get a goal. I think that was his first goal in 13 games or something. It's just mental that he hadn't scored for that long of a period, and you just would never expect that. But what worried me more was the interview after the game. And I'm sure we've all seen it. It was, you know, seeing someone that is visibly upset about what's going on at the club, what is happening on the pitch. And it's just, there is something that is not right. And I, you know, whether Jose's searching for a mole or not, I don't think it takes a genius to work out. It's not just going to be one mole that is doing this. I mean, he's been at enough clubs. He's going to know. It's not just one. They're all of them. You know, they all talk to the media. They all leak things that they want leaked out. It's common sense. And I do think the media do, you know, manipulate things on Jose sometimes. And I think that's why, you know, post-match yesterday we saw, you know, he was very, you know, kind of quiet, staying away from, you know, outing the players, because he knows whatever he says, they're going to twist it. And okay, I understand that approach, but you just see Son and how much of an impact he's always been for us, and what an incredible player. He walks into most teams in Europe, and you just see him after the game and you're like, that's not Son. Something is really deep rooted here, and it's just feeding the toxicness throughout everywhere. And if you think about, I mean, for him to go 13 games without scoring, it's just unheard of. And I know he's obviously missed a couple, but as good as it was to see him back, I was more concerned about how he looked post-match. I think that's a real problem for us.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Abby, because for me, seeing that, I was just like, we have just broken the happiest man in football, because he's always smiling. No matter whether it's in training or in a game, he's always smiling, and we've completely broken and destroyed him. Now, for me, I think there's a whole load of different factors that are accumulating towards it. But let's be honest, Jose at the moment isn't really helping his case. And I want to come to you, Patrick, quickly, because obviously there was a bit of controversy in that game, which included Sonny. Now, I kind of want to get both your takes, but Patrick, I'll come to you first. Do you think that was necessarily a foul on Sonny from McTominay, or do you think maybe the way that modern football is going, that maybe it was a little too harsh on McTominay?
Oh, it's a tricky one, because as a Spurs fan, obviously you want that given. You'd always say yes. So as a Spurs fan, of course I want that given. As a football fan, is it soft? Yes. But does it happen week in and week out? Yes. So, I mean, and 9 times out of 10, the foul is given and a card is given. So I didn't understand why, if they gave the foul, which it was, in my opinion, he did hit out. he did hit Sonny in the face. So only Son knows how hard the contact was. But in the modern game, as soon as you get fouled or you get hit, you go down. If you don't react, we've seen Sterling and Foden stay on their feet and fouls or penalties not get given. So you know to go down, obviously make the most of it, which Son did, and thankfully for us they pulled it back. But my point is, if McTominay is already on a yellow and that is a foul, regardless if it's accidental or not, it's a foul. There's contact. It should have been a second card, which would have been a sending off.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's the thing, like, obviously what Kev said here about the elbow of Pogba. Now, surely, didn't Sky come out and say, it's because Pogba's taller, this, that, and the other? But surely that's contact again. I think the so frustrating thing about football at the moment is that VAR was brought in to stop this controversy, and it's creating more. I think that's the thing that's really starting to irritate me. So, Abbi, going off of that, do you think, obviously, Patrick's given his side of the story, do you agree with Patrick, or can you see a different kind of side to the argument?
No, I totally agree with Patrick, and I was going to just bring that up, the Pogba thing, because for me, that's another thing. That's another foul. You see that given quite a few times as well. And I feel that the biggest problem that we've got in general with football at the minute is it's so inconsistent. And you see things being given as a penalty one week, then they review it after the controversy, and then they say, oh, actually no, you guys were right, it's not actually a penalty, but the game's already gone. The 3 points are either won or lost, and it's moved on. But you've cost a team 3 points then, just to take us back to Newcastle, early on in the season, that Eric Dier one, that's 3 points. That's 3 points that we lost on a thing that on a penalty that was never a penalty. And we see it not just with Spurs, with all teams throughout the season. Very, very controversial. And the whole point of VAR was to make the game better, and if anything, I think it's made it worse. It makes it unenjoyable. You can't celebrate a goal. You've got to wait 2-3 seconds to see anything. Even the rule with not putting the flag up until it's hit the back of the net when it's offside, things like that. It's just, these things don't benefit the game. They don't benefit a fan perspective. They don't benefit a referee. They don't benefit a club, anything. So I had no issue with VAR coming in. I was actually happy to see it because I was sick of, the mistakes that you see refs make week in, week out, but only if it was going to benefit the game. There is no, what they constitute is clear and obvious. I don't always think it's clear and obvious. Sometimes it is clear, it isn't clear and obvious, and they give it. And I think that's where people get their back up so much with VAR, because sport is spontaneous, football is spontaneous. It's you can have the small margins that go either way, and they do even themselves out over a course of the season. But I just feel with VAR, it doesn't. And we saw last season after the restart, I think it was Aston Villa, and I think it might have been Sheffield. I can't remember the game, but there was a big decision in that game, and it could have been the difference between Villa staying up or Villa going down, as far as I remember it. And these things are just getting worse. I think after last season, I thought surely they're going to improve it, but I think this season it's been even worse.
I 100% agree. Oh yeah, go Patrick, go.
Oh, I think we've lost him.
Call him Patrick. Wait,
that's a good look. He's frozen on.
Yes, isn't he? It's calm and collected there. He'll come back in a minute. If we just move on quickly, so Lee White, he's put I'm not going to disagree with this. It's quite a good look on the whole VAR thing. I mean, we've kind of sat here and spoken a little bit about Jose, and I think we will get into a bit more about him. But Abbi, do you think that maybe, obviously, Jose's trying to install this winning mentality, and I think most of them just can't cope with it. Do you think this maybe has something to do with the fact that obviously we're trying to use VAR to maybe cover up, not some mistakes, but cover up some things in our play that we really shouldn't have? We should have ridiculed out if we had Jose in. Do you think there's something not quite right with the way Jose's trying to lead this team?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've always been very, well, not always, last season I was very open about the fact I didn't think it was the right appointment, and I wasn't happy about the Pochettino sacking, and I didn't think that Jose was the right man. I thought it was a very much a marriage of convenience for him and Daniel Levy. From both sides. But obviously after the documentary came out, the season started, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to give this guy a fair crack of the whip. I'm not going to be biased. It's a new season. We've got to move on from Pochettino. He's here. Let's back the manager. And I've been very much on the fence. I haven't been Jose in. I haven't been Jose out, because I can understand there are very big, deep-rooted problems within the club that don't just fall on Jose's shoulders. They fall on the squad, and they also massively fall on the board as well. It's a combination of all three, and I've said this for many, many years as to why we always are the nearly men and we never make it over the line. And, you know, sometimes the recruitment is questionable and various things. Whether or not I thought he would be able to change the mentality, yes, I did. I thought if anyone can, you know, change this way of thinking that Spurs have, I would have always thought it would have been Jose, regardless of if I liked him on a personal note or not. You can't argue with what he'd won in the past. So I thought, okay, if there's a manager you want in a final or big games, it's probably him. But I'm seeing less and less of the Jose that, you know, we've seen 5-10 years ago, and I'm seeing way more of the manager we saw the back end of Chelsea, the second stint, and United. And he came out and he said, "Oh, I've learnt my lessons," and things like that when he joined. And I just don't think he's learned his lessons. Sometimes a leopard just doesn't change its spots. And as toxic as the club is, and the issues do outdate Jose. The last game that I was at with fans was the Norwich game, and when Eric Dier jumped in the crowd, and I just remember the atmosphere was so toxic. And I just think if fans would have been in the stadium after what we've all watched the last 3-4 months, I just don't know whether or not he would have been there. I just don't. Imagine being booed off every single week. And I also think that the players can't be held unaccountable. I think that they massively should be held accountable because fundamentally they are still a lot of the same squad that was there under Pochettino and let him down too. So there's a lot of questions, but unfortunately you can't sack a 25-man squad, 24 if you take Kane out of that. But that's the problem.
100%. I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking to myself, this is probably the last roll of the dice for ENIC before they had to invest players. You think about it, let's bring in a chosen winner to try and take this team that let's not be frank. We're not blind to the idea that these players have been here forever. You said it yourself. They've been here for a very long time, and they should have not necessarily won something by now, but they should have that hunger to win something. And that Zagreb game and that North London derby completely did me in, because they don't need motivation from a manager to play well in those games. You think
I completely agree.
And that's the thing that really irritates me. And don't get me wrong, I've probably been not Jose's biggest advocate, but I've sat here and I've thought to myself, that man has done it everywhere. Why can't he do it at Tottenham? And I think that's the thing for me. And I don't know what you kind of feel like that. Do you feel like it was probably the last roll of the dice from ENIC before they had to start investing in players?
I don't think they really cared, to be honest with you. I don't think they give a toss as long as they balance the books. And look, we could say that we had a great window in the summer. You know, we did sign good players. Højbjerg's been a good signing. Reguilón's been a good signing. Rodon will most likely be a good signing. Like I said, I've got a lot of potential. I feel there is with him. You know, Gareth Bale, we were all buzzing to see it back. It obviously hasn't worked out. Maybe under a different manager it does work out. Who knows? But for me, I feel that you can't buy heart. You can't coach having heart in a squad. And you look at those players yesterday, just, you know, the last 6 minutes of the game when we conceded the third goal, they're not fighting for it. They're not bothered. They're walking around. There was no urgency, I felt, in that second half. I'm watching it and I'm looking at Lucas Moura, who I actually do feel is quite passionate and loves the club and has heart. But I see him walking into the box, you know, when they're trying to create something, just walking and strolling into the box, and no urgency from anyone. You know, Sissoko walking around, no one doing the utmost. No one cares enough for the badge. And that's what gets my back up the most, because you're Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, you play for a big club. You haven't won anything. You know, you're not Manchester City. You haven't earned the right. And like you touched on with Zagreb, they turned up at Zagreb thinking the game's won. How many times over the years have we seen Tottenham do that? And it's a mentality thing. It's not caring enough. It's like thinking you're bigger than you are. Too big for your boots, in fact. You know, don't be disrespectful. Turn up, play the game. That's what you're paid to do. It's your job. And you get a lot of money in order to do it. So have respect for the club. Even if you don't want to be there, if you wish you were somewhere else, you wish you had a different gaffer, whatever. But, you know, you're playing for the badge. You're playing for the club. And it just really, really annoys me when I see players putting in the lack of effort. And I think we saw that mostly in the North London derby, which out of all the games to pick, to have that attitude in, couldn't have picked a worse one. And I just think Villa, we saw it a little bit. You saw players like Lucas Moura in that game really giving it their all and trying to prove a point. But I just don't think they're up for it. I don't think they care. And I think that, unfortunately, as I said, this does also outdate Mourinho. I've seen it happen many a times, you know, over the years. I've been supporting this club for, you know, what am I, 27 now? I've been supporting this club for 23 years. And like loads of us on here have seen us come where we've just, you know, you've expected so much more from Tottenham and they turn up and it depends what Tottenham turns up. And yesterday I did an Instagram post tonight and I asked the question, what does everyone think it's going to, you know, what's going to happen today? And I said, me personally, it will just depend on what Tottenham turns up, if they can be bothered or if they can't. And that's our fault, because, well, it's our board's fault, because we've let so many of that squad go stale that they don't even think they're really bothered. They're just sitting there happy to pick up their paycheck. That's it. And for me, you want players at your club that fight for the badge. And if they don't, I don't want them anywhere in my club. Don't care who they are. Don't care if they're Gareth Bale. Don't care if, you know, even hypothetically, if it was Harry Kane and he didn't want to play for the badge anymore. I don't want players like that. And that's not me saying Harry Kane wants to leave, by the way, before anyone gets on my back. I'm just saying I don't care who it is. You know, the badge on the front of your shirt is more important than the name on the back. And it's a very famous saying. I think Graham Roberts said it. And it's a very true and famous saying, because as a fan, you love your club. Whoever's the manager, whoever's in the squad, you know, if we were in the Championship, if we were in League One, we'd all still be there, you know. But with them players, no, probably not. But while you're there, you're in the Premier League. You had the chance to go fourth. You had the chance to make something out of a season that's been awful, you know. And you could have just done that. And it's just the lack of effort. And it's just got to a point now where it's like, I don't even enjoy watching it. And I'm happy in a way that I'm not there, because imagine going to watch it every week. At least you can turn the telly off when you've had enough.
Exactly. I echo those words, because, like you say, I feel like sometimes I put more passion into the club than half those players running around the pitch. I mean, we've seen it with, I know I've got him behind me, and I have him behind me for banter now because he's just completely annoyed me. But Harry Winks, for example, is more concerned about getting into the England squad. Well, hang on, mate. If you're more concerned about getting in the England squad, actually show your worth on the Tottenham pitch first. That's the thing that really, really irritates me and grates me. Now, I don't know where Patrick's gone. I'm not sure where he's gone off to, but I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. But slightly moving away, obviously, we did get a goal, and I know it was only a consolation goal, but that just highlights what we can do. And I just don't know why we don't go and do that all the time. Now, obviously, we saw in the second half that Jose decides to bring on, oh, here he is. Here he is.
He's back.
Back.
So sorry about that. I've got Sky Q
right.
as well, so it should hold up. So yeah, just like
Sky.
Yeah, hold on.
But we were just talking about, obviously, how the players aren't seeming to play their worth. Now, Patrick, we've heard Abbi's kind of thoughts on it. I want to quickly hear your thoughts. So obviously we've spoke about, obviously, they're not showing their passion or pride on the pitch. Now, we both hold them accountable for that. What's your kind of take on it? What's going on with the players at Tottenham at the moment?
Yeah, I just think that they're not buying into Jose's system or Jose's philosophy. I feel that the star performers like your Harry Kane, your Sons, Højbjerg, Lloris, I think those guys will play for whoever's in charge. They're winners. They want to win, and they're buying into the philosophy that Jose is a proven winner. And if you stick with him, then potentially there's gold at the end of the rainbow. But I feel with all the other guys, I think he's lost them already. Obviously, bringing people in, isolating them, your Dele Alli's, your Eric Diers, even Davinson Sanchez, all these guys that are like in and out. I don't think they really believe in Jose, and they're not really giving that all. I would say Lucas, you could add Lucas to the list of the guys that will run for a brick wall for Jose, because you can see whenever Lucas Moura plays, even if he's not having a good game, he gives his all for the shirt and for the badge. But I just feel that there's a big division in the squad. You can see it. You can see the guys that are for Jose and the ones that aren't. And obviously, to win a game, you need everyone singing from the same hymn sheet. You need everyone pulling together. And I just don't think we have that cohesion at the moment and that unity. And against anyone in the Premier League, if you're not at it and you don't give 100%, you can get beat. West Brom will beat you. Southampton will beat you. Anyone can beat you if you're not on your A game. And I just feel that you can kind of see, and even from yesterday's heartbreaking interview from Sonny at the end, it just seems like he's broken. I think yesterday was the last straw for him. And you can just, everyone's shoulders are dropped. There's no fight. If we go a goal behind or 2 goals behind, usually you'll see a fight and a belief in the team that knows that they can still get a result. but we just don't seem to have that anymore.
I know, it's like you said, I just don't know where these players are going to find their motivation from. It's obviously...
Yeah, but they have to find their own motivation, regardless of who's in charge. You've got to have some personal pride, and that's what I'm saying. Like I said earlier, Patrick, you missed it, and I said about playing for the badge. You've got hundreds of thousands of fans, millions of fans over the world. This is a club. And I just feel like this is the modern day footballer. This is player power. And sometimes when you don't like a manager, they just down tools. And we've seen it happen multiple times with Jose. We've seen it happen with loads of managers, worldwide. But at the end of the day, okay, not everyone likes their boss. Patrick, do you like your boss? Hollie, do you like your boss? You still got to do your job. And this is for me. I think to myself sometimes when you look at older players, former players who played in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they must be turning, at thinking about this. It's a man's game that has been taken over by spoiled boys, and it annoys me so much. Too much money, too young, too much power, and it annoys me because not everyone likes what they do in life. Not everyone likes their manager, but you know what? You have a job and do it. And if you're seen walking about against United with 6 minutes to go and you're just strolling about, while Pogba's doing tricks and flicks in the corner, that's outrageous. You can't be doing that. Not when you're sitting there getting 100 grand a week. If you're getting £10 an hour, maybe, but we're not talking about people like that. And for me, when you're on TV every single week and you know what the pandemic's done to people, and the only good thing that people have is watching their team a lot of the time, and then you're just putting in half-assed performances like that, especially going back to that North London derby. It's just, for me, it's just unforgivable.
I 100% agree with what you're saying. And I want to touch on Dele Alli because someone's asked about Dele Alli in the chat. Now, for me, Dele Alli is that type of player that you've just described, Abbi. The player that will just turn up. He's too young. And I think that he was taken from MK on so young. And now he's got a chip on his shoulder. So, Patrick, what are your thoughts on Dele Alli? Do you think he needs to go in the summer? Do you want to keep him?
You know what? You hit the nail on the head there, Hollie. And I was about to say, literally I was going to chip in with what Abbi said. And Dele Alli fits that mold to a T. Talented, fantastic player, had the world at his feet at such a young age. I think these guys, they live in a bubble. They don't live in the real world. They've never had to work. They've never really had to grind. The talent has always brought them through. They've been basically, put in a position of privilege from such a young age. So the ones that make it, I don't think they have a sense of real reality. Like Abbi said, we don't get to choose our boss. We might not like our boss, but if we don't turn up and put a shift in, we'll get fired. But these guys know, there's 11, 12, 15 superstars. More than likely, they'll outlast their boss. And we saw what happened at United. We saw what happened with Pogba, having arguments with Jose in front of the cameras. Luke Shaw as well. And now you pretty much know, once we get a new manager, if we do get a new manager in, you'll probably see the best of Dele Alli again. And to be fair, that will piss me off because why didn't he play like that now? Look how many, look how many times Dele's come on and basically been mediocre, not really put a shift in, not really tracked, not really done his all. So it's so annoying. To be fair, I don't want to see Dele Alli go because I know he's such a talented player. But if he's going to have this stinking attitude that he's got right now, then yeah, just go. Let us cash in on him and get someone in that wants to play. Tottenham is still one of the biggest teams and the best teams in the world. Yes, we're going through a rough patch now. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel pride and you don't feel like you're in a position of privilege to play for such a big team, then just bounce. It don't matter who you are. I mean, if that's Son, Harry Kane, I mean, I hate to say it because Son and Harry Kane don't fit into this mold, but I'm just trying to say no matter who you are, if you're not really at it, just go.
I'm so glad you said that too, so I won't be the only one.
Yeah.
When you were off getting your Wi-Fi back, I said the exact same thing, and I said before anyone says it, I'm not saying I want Harry Kane to go. I'm just making a point.
Exactly that. I got a bit passionate there and I got a bit carried away. But yeah, not Son and not Kane. No, not at all.
But no, that's what we need to be talking about though, because it's true. If you're playing for our club and you're not feeling it anymore, just leave, because we've had these same stale players for so long, and it's.
I'll give you a prime example. Sorry to interrupt you. I'll give you a prime example. Danny Rose, right, hasn't played for Spurs for what, 2 seasons near on, pretty much been involved. Yeah. Danny Rose could have had a move to a lesser club. Danny Rose thinks he's better than having a move to a lesser club. So Danny Rose is very happy to sit there and pick up his paycheck and wait for till he's a free agent, get himself back in shape, and then get a deal, Championship, Turkey, somewhere like that. And that's the type of players we're dealing with. And there's a lot of them at Tottenham, in my opinion, that are like that, have been there way too long. And it's down. And for me, that's down to the board. You've got to move things on, keep it fresh. Don't let someone sit there and take the piss out of you. Because in my opinion, that's what a lot of these players have done. Sit there, stayed out their contract, and happy to wait there because they're getting wages. Why would they want to go somewhere else when they're a top 4, 5, 6 team in the country? Might not be this season, but if they don't really care about it, they might as well just sit there and pick up the paycheck.
Exactly.
I just saw what Phil Hamper said. He'll be waiting a while.
But just putting on the flip side of that, obviously not getting rid of players, but I also think it's that fight for competition of place as well. We've seen it this year with obviously bringing Doherty in, which I think was stupid because he's obviously a lower grade of Serge Aurier anyway. But once we brought Doherty in, you saw the performance level of Serge Aurier lift up. So, Patrick, do you think that's something else the board just haven't instilled? They haven't tried to get better players in. They've just gone for let's build the squad depth, which we needed, but the quality just isn't there.
Yeah, the quality's not been there. And I feel that the board, Daniel Levy, I feel sometimes, that shrewd negotiator, the thing that he's heralded for is also his biggest downfall. For example, Skriniar, we didn't want to pay the extra 10 million. The same with Ruben Dias. But we go and pay 15 million or 12 million for Jack Clark because he's a young, promising player and he may pay off in 5 or 6 years. Why don't we actually invest that in a player that can come in right now and actually improve us? And it's just these type of things that really frustrates me because we've got guys out on loan that can't even get a game where we could have used that money and really invested in a top class centre back. And I feel we would have been basically doing a lot better than what we're doing right now. So, I could go on all day. There's so many issues with the board, but it definitely stems from that. And it stems from as well, not being able to take cut your ego and your pride aside. If we bought Sissoko, for example, for 30 million and we can only get 12 or 15 for him now, let's cut our losses and get rid of him, get that off the wage bill and get in a younger, better player. It's that type of thing that is really holding us back.
Absolutely.
100%. And it's just, I don't want to say it's a lack of ambition on the pitch, but it kind of is because we've seen this great stadium. We've seen this great training facility. But for me, as soon as the doors open and COVID's banished and all this, the revenue they're making from that stadium, am I 100% sure they're going to reinvest it into the football club? No. And that's the really scary thing. And that's what is really depressing because you sit there and think, we could be challenging up there. And I know someone said in the chat that we overachieved with the likes of Poch. Yeah, but imagine if we had the players in that system that could have worked with Poch. Imagine what we could have achieved then.
But that's the whole point. This is the never-ending cycle. And Patrick basically said everything I was going to say. But when you look, and you can take the documentary as an example. You see, Steve Hitchin looking at Steven Bergwijn. Jose outwardly said Steven Bergwijn was not his first choice, not even his second choice. He was the third or fourth choice. So if you constantly bring in your third, fourth, fifth choices, you are going to get third, fourth, fifth results, because we didn't want to pay for Bruno Fernandes. We didn't want to pay that money for him. You brought in Jedson Fernandes. What was the point? The money you've wasted on that guy's wages sitting there on loan, who's had 4 appearances, put the money and get Bruno Fernandes. What a difference that would have made. 25 million on Jack Grealish. What a difference that would have made. Ruben Dias. What a difference that would have made. Yes, it's a big amount of money, but we are so hell-bent on investing off the pitch. Beautiful stadium, beautiful training ground. Where is it matching on the pitch? And Pochettino said it. He said, you can have a beautiful house, but if your furniture is shit, it takes it away. You can have a Ferrari and it can be awful inside it. Not everything is how it looks on the outside. And I think that Tottenham is such a prime example of that. All shiny and lovely on the outside, but the problems inside are so bad. So bad. And it's an endless cycle because while they're in charge, you're going to see the same results. How many managers have we had under ENIC, right? Can't be every manager. It just cannot be. There has to be a common denominator in there somewhere. And it's the board and it's the way they handle their transfers. It's the lack of investment from Joe Lewis and ENIC. Everything that we, gets put back into the squad is generated by us fans, giving them our money every year, as we stupidly always will do. I can't wait for them to send that email out saying renew your season ticket. How nice of us, we've frozen the price. It's us, fundamentally supporting the same cycle over and over again. And while they end up want to sell the club, however much they value the club at, £2-3 billion with all the debt, you can't even argue that this is a Champions League side anymore. How are you going to shift a club with all that when there's no ambition on the pitch? Nothing. Your only shining saving grace is Harry Kane. And if Harry Kane is really honest, and if we're all honest with ourselves, I wouldn't begrudge Harry Kane for leaving. He deserves way better from what he's got. And he's always said, I will be here as long as this club is moving in the right direction. And none of us can say this club has moved in the right direction for at least 2-3 seasons now.
I 100% agree. So much to take in, Abby, because you're literally
Sorry.
No, it's great because everything you're saying is great. And I just want to point out what Darren said. Obviously, the pandemic's played a part in why we did not spend much money. Now, Darren, I agree with you. And me and Patrick were kind of talking about this before we came on. And I just think that this pandemic has been not a blessing in disguise, but that kind of feel that'll be their number one excuse to why they don't spend the summer. And Patrick, you're itching to talk, so go for it.
Yeah, I was just saying, I feel the pandemic, I hate to say it because it is a global pandemic. There is something really real going on, but it was the right time for Dele Alli and the board to basically, it was a perfect excuse at the perfect time. The fact that we've lost so much money, I mean, Lady Gaga concerts got cancelled, the Guns N' Roses concert got cancelled, potential boxing, big bouts, NFL. It means that lack of, funds coming back in, it really gives them an excuse not to spend. But it's just, it's the same old thing. And the thing is, when Jose Mourinho was appointed, I know it divided the fan base, but I was all for it because I thought it would actually change. I thought, Dele Alli understands what kind of manager Jose Mourinho is. He's a manager that needs backing. He needs the right tools to provide, to obviously, get the results. But we all know that Jose Mourinho, if he is given the tools, he can get the results. So I thought Jose Mourinho, it meant that we were actually going to change our philosophy and really go in and buy ready-made, proven world beaters right now. So I was all for it, thinking that we was actually going to change our approach and live in the moment instead of buy for the future like we usually do. But obviously, as we can see, we've had a window or two, and it's pretty much the same old, same old. And with Jose Mourinho at the helm, it doesn't make sense. We should have went for a younger manager who plays on the front foot, who actually can build maybe a 4-year, 5-year plan. Jose's not going to be that. He's a guy for the now. And so we need players for the now. Like Abby said, your Ruben Diaz's, your Bruno Fernandez's, your Skriniar's, all these kind of guys that can come in and have an immediate impact. We haven't, I know Højbjerg has come in and done well, but you can't really say we've went out and bought a world beater that's come in and pretty much improved the team, can you? So it's just the same old crap, man. And it's just so frustrating because we were so close at one point. And now we're like that far away now. The gap's getting wider and wider.
Just riding the wave, I feel, with our board. They're just like, we've done all right this season. We'll be fine another season. And then again, rather than being proactive, we've been reactive again because now they're thinking to themselves, oh shit, now I need to do something. And that's the most frustrating thing.
But the thing is, they're going to spend the money on most likely sacking Jose because they probably will sack Jose. Even if it doesn't happen in the summer, if fans are back in there August, September, and it's the same thing, he'll be gone by October. Realistically, we know that's what's going to happen. So the money you will spend on sacking that manager, 30 million quid? That's a player. That's what annoys me. And like Patrick said, we're going to bring in a manager that's got another 4 or 5 year plan. Well, we had a manager that had a 4 or 5 year plan. The plan was on course. All he needed was a bit of backing. And there we go. Yeah. So we're going to bring in someone like a Nagelsmann, potentially, who's like a Poch 2.0. So why don't we just keep Poch, and do the same thing?
It's just, like you said, it's just an endless cycle that's just a load of crap each year, and we're still living through it. I don't know how we've lived through it, but we're somehow still sticking in there. Now, I'm going to turn things even more depressing, and obviously that is to talk about Harry Kane. Now, for me, I would like to think that Harry Kane is a one-club man, but me personally as a footballer is thinking to myself, I want to win trophies. So, Patrick, I come to you first. Say Harry Kane wants to leave. Where's he going?
As well, I think we're in a perfect storm because Harry Kane under any normal circumstances, you have the pick of clubs, fighting for him, or the queue would be around the corner. But because we're in COVID, because most clubs have lost so much money, I don't really feel that there's that many clubs that can afford Harry Kane right now. I believe Harry Kane would like to stay in the Premier League and hopefully, for him, smash Alan Shearer's record. So again, that limits the amount of clubs. Man United, if he moves to Man United, they're not really. It's not guaranteed that they're going to win trophies. And even Liverpool, for as good as they've been, you can see how far they've fallen away this year. Again, it's not guaranteed they're a team that will pick up trophies. So realistically, in the Premier League, there's only one team that we know will be fighting for trophies year in and year out, and that's Man City. The fact that Aguero is leaving this year, it makes a lot of sense. But then also Pep come out and said that they don't have the money to spend this summer on a big name, striker. I don't know if that's just to basically, stop the speculation on their side. So realistically, in the Premier League, I could only see him going to Man City. Obviously, outside of the Premier League, there's probably a few more clubs like your PSGs, maybe Real Madrid or Barcelona. I know those clubs, again, have got a lot of money troubles and debt at the moment, but there's probably 4 or 5 clubs in the world football that could afford him, and it would make sense for him to move to. But in the Premier League right now, I'd probably say it's only Man City that I could see him moving to.
That's a good shout. I mean, Levy's obviously come out and said, I think it was through Spurs related, I saw the post that he's not selling to a rival club. And to be honest with you, I don't think Kane would want to go to a rival club. Like, we know he's Tottenham through and through, so I really can't see that. So just flipping on its head, Abby, if obviously Kane isn't to leave because of the price tag, would Sonny leave instead? Or do you think if Sonny leaves, Kane would leave?
Well, I had a conversation on another podcast last week, and I actually said this. I don't think Harry Kane's going anywhere, unfortunately for him, purely for the fact that I think we're going to outprice him anyway. He's got 3 years left on his contract. Daniel Levy I don't think will even remotely consider selling him domestically, in my opinion. Whether or not City want him or not, I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he could actually physically deal with the anger and the backlash that he would get if that actually happened. Even more so than what he gets already. I think that we will probably turn our attention to maybe seeing Son go, because we're obviously going to need money from somewhere. We'll get, I would assume, between 70 to 90 million for Son, somewhere in that region, I would think. That money can either pay to sack Jose Mourinho as part of it, or it can go back into the squad and invest it. For me, the Son thing is a strange one, because he was so nailed on and it was all very hot with him signing a new contract, and then it going completely cold, and we haven't really heard anything since about that. So for me, I think if we're looking to sell one of our star players and get people off the books for whatever reason, I think that it'd probably be Sonny. I expect Hugo Lloris to maybe go as well. There's a lot of talk about that, and I think those 2 will give you some money, if not in wages, but also in able to invest it back in the squad. But yeah, I think unfortunately for Kane, I think he did himself up there by signing that extension.
I agree with you. It's just like, if hindsight was a thing, he's probably kicking himself at the moment. And I wouldn't blame him if he was, because I wouldn't want to be in this club at the moment having to break my back each week to try and pull out these kind of wins. But at the moment, even have to go through these losses. So I just want to move away from obviously the Man United game and everything we talk about, and have a look towards the Everton game. Now, I know at the minute it's quite difficult to try and get yourself up for a game. So, Patrick, I want to come to you. What's your kind of outlook on Everton? Because I know Everton at the moment, they're not a bit like us, but they kind of are. Their season's just been a bit crazy, and I call them the northern equivalent of Tottenham. So, Patrick, what do you kind of feel Friday?
I mean, on our podcast, we've called Everton for the last couple of seasons the pretenders, because every time they look like they're there or thereabouts, they fall away. And even this year, under Ancelotti, at one point they were top of the league, weren't they? And they've fallen away. And yeah, to be fair, they're a bit like us. They're hot and cold. I can't call it at the moment. I would say that we should beat Everton, and we would. But this year, I just don't know. At the moment, I don't know. The way we're playing, I have no idea what Spurs side is going to turn up. But if you're looking at recent... The funny thing is, our actual recent form hasn't been that bad. I know we dropped points against... Well, it kind of has as well, to be fair. Now I'm thinking about it. But we dropped points against Newcastle. Obviously, we lost yesterday, and we lost against Arsenal. But before that, we did go on a bit of a mini run. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen now. I just don't... I think maybe the players they know that pretty much top four's done. So it just depends on how professional they want to be. But I just can't call it. I just don't know what Spurs is going to turn up, to be fair. That's me being honest. I just don't know.
It's so difficult, isn't it? It's like we're trying to clutch at straws at the moment, because there's nothing positive going on. And like Kev's just reminded us, they have beaten us twice this season, which isn't fabulous. Obviously, that the first game of the season, which, to be fair, we were kind of settling in. and obviously that cup game, which Jose tried to go attacking, and it kind of bit us on the bum because we still couldn't defend. So I'll come to you, Abbi. What are your thoughts for the Everton game? How are you feeling?
Very similar to Patrick. Could go either way. Have got no idea. I like Patrick said, I can't call us anymore. I can't even fathom what would be a win, a draw, or a loss, because it just depends what happens in the game. It depends if we turn up, depends how we look in the game. I think you can tell with Spurs kind of how they're going to be within the first 15 minutes, probably in the first 5 minutes of some games actually as well. But so I have absolutely no idea, but they are, like you rightly said, the northern equivalent to us. They are. Both got, in theory, great managers of history, both, but just something just doesn't always relay on the pitch, and I have just got absolutely no idea. It's going to be the bottlers contest on Friday night.
That's how depressing life has got.
Oh, no,
as a
it's
Spurs
so
fan.
bad. It's so bad.
Do you know what I said? I know I said earlier that I wasn't pissed off, but the more I talk about it, the more pissed off I get. Since last night, I just haven't really said anything. I've just been really, really quiet about everything, and now I've started. I can't stop.
Honestly, if we did this last night after drinking like half a bottle of gin, we wouldn't be able to stop me. So I'm kind of glad we kind of left it today. But it's just the way we're both all just depressed. Like, football should not be doing this to us, especially in a time of lockdown. And this is what we've got to. Like, it's just horrendous. I'd wait for the weekend after work, winding all the kids up at school saying, haha, I support Tottenham, you support Southampton, they're crap. And then get to the weekend and I get absolutely butchered. And then Monday morning, I'm ridiculed for it. So it's just, I don't know where to go anymore. And it's just a sad prospect. Now, this is going to be quite a difficult, obviously, there's loads of different things happening at the club at the moment. But I just kind of want a little summary on, obviously, the Jose problem at the moment. Okay, so Patrick, I'll come to you first. Are you Jose in or Jose out? Now, I know this is like a straight to the point question, but you're out.
Jose out. I think after, you'll be happy to know that Southampton are losing 3-0, by the way. And there's 1 minute left on the clock, so yeah, they're done. So that will give you a bit of satisfaction tomorrow.
Wow.
But
I've just seen that.
And that's to West Brom as well. So yeah, that's a really, really bad result. But I'm Jose out. I was Jose out from the Brighton game. I don't know if you guys remember. I think we lost 1-0 or whatever it was. And I just saw the way we were playing against, no disrespect to Brighton, a really poor team. At that time as well, they were really bad. And since then, it's just been, we flatter to deceive. Every time I start to get excited and I start to think that we're there or thereabouts, we then obviously, let points drop, let a lead slip, end up getting beaten. And I just don't think Jose Mourinho can. I just think the game's passed him by, if I'm being honest. If I'm being brutally honest, he's getting out tacticianed and he's getting out Mourinho'd by lesser managers. Every time we play a team, they seem to have our number. And these are against managers that should no way near be getting a tune out of, a good manager with our team. Yes, we're not doing that great, but let's be honest, we've got some of the best attacking players in the world. We've got a good team. We shouldn't be where we are, and we shouldn't be, losing games. We shouldn't be giving up points to Crystal Palace, losing to Brighton, losing to Newcastle, drawing to Newcastle. That shouldn't be happening. We're not. I know we're not good this season, but we're not that crap, are we? Surely we've got some world beaters in our team. So I think the Jose Mourinho experiment hasn't worked, and I think we just we just do the amicable thing and get rid of him, because it's just getting worse and worse. From a few weeks ago, it looked like we were in such a promising position. We were a couple points off the top four, a cup final on the horizon, and now look at us. We're all I feel like alcoholic right now. I feel so down in the dumps and just I just like Abbi said, this is actually it's pissing me off. The more I think about it, it's just this season had so much promising potential, and now we're just I just want it to end right now, to be fair.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I kind of want the Euros, but then I'm thinking to myself, Gareth Southgate army, I'm not really feeling that vibe either. But anyway, Abbi, come to you. What are your thoughts on Jose in or out?
Like I said earlier, I was very much on the fence with it, because I appreciate there are bigger problems than Jose also at the club, and it's a factor of all three. However, I'm definitely more verge on the side of Jose out. because it's clearly not working. Players don't care. They don't listen. They're not interested in what he's got to say. So it's useless flogging a dead horse. Cut your losses. Let's move on. Expensive loss, but it is what it is. But just because I'm Jose out doesn't mean I take the blame off of the other two factors. You know, like I said earlier, squad really needs to be held accountable. A lot of them there under Pochettino, still there under Jose. Big problems there, which unfortunately players hardly ever get held accountable for, but I'm going to personally hold them accountable. And the board. So yes, Jose out, but I still think that we're probably sitting here in another 5 years having the same conversations about lack of investment, stale squads, things like that. So
yeah, and for me, it's really difficult to sit here because, like, of all the things we've mentioned, it's not just him, and I feel really hacked off at the board because, like we said, that man is a winner, regardless if he's a dinosaur. But we all know from past teams that he's managed, he needs the tools, and we haven't given him that. But like you said, it's not working right now. And are the boards gonna pay out the money? That's another question. Are the board gonna put up with him for another season when fans are back in there? That's another question. So I really don't know where I stand anymore. I think it's just got to the point where this season I just don't care what happens. Obviously, we've got the cup final to look forward to, but again, I'm going to be drinking from the start, the during, and the end. So I don't remember any of it. That's just the vibe I'm going for. But like Darren said, we're just down our sorrows. It'll be fine. It'll be all good. But thank you both for joining me tonight. I hope it's been a little bit therapeutic. I mean, it helped me a little bit getting the anger out. But obviously, we need to say our goodbyes, but say where everybody can find you at. So, Abbi, where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me. I put my handle in the name anyway, so it's at Abbi_Summers on Twitter, and on Instagram it's just at Abbi Summers. So I'm less depressing on both of those. I'm just trying to keep my mouth as quiet as possible for a minute to avoid winding myself up like I have done tonight.
No, it's all good. It is all good. Thank you again for joining me. And Patrick, where can everybody find you?
My handle's on somewhere on the bottom. So it's at Patrick Tyrant. So Patrick and then TYRANT. And we do our show called Everyone's a Pundit. And that's on the Views TV official. So Views TV official channel. And you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. So yeah, follow me, I'll follow back, and hopefully we can engage and have some dialogue on that.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and to both of you. I do really appreciate you coming on. It is quite nice to vent Tottenham, so to speak, to other people. And to everyone in the comments, thank you for tuning in this whole show. I know what I'm like during these kind of Hollie's Hotspurs. I'm not very good at bringing up messages that come up. So thank you to everyone that has watched. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that sub button. But until next time, obviously, I'm going to try and say it with a bit of enthusiasm. But like I say, come on, you Spurs.